All right, here we go. The Requiem for the Summer of Soccer. I felt like that was a fitting title because one of my favorite 30 for 30 documentaries is The Requiem for the Big East. Basically, just Big East, my favorite conference, as many people know. But I this feels more like a look back on the summer of soccer that was. So I figured split it right down the middle, do half of this on Copa America, half of it on the Euro. Then we'll do a big thing at the end. I don't know. We'll see where this takes us. So we're going to first start off with the Euro. As you know by now, Spain has won the Euro. And just taking a look back at this Euro, it felt like, I don't even know the right words to put this at. Felt like the first real, I put real in air quotes because I truly don't know how to articulate this, but it felt like the first real tournament since Euro 2016 maybe. If we look at the European continent, I mean, because then you had the 2018 World Cup in Russia. Kind of the crowds felt manufactured. I'd say the crowds were better in Russia than they were Qatar. So maybe you could make the argument that this is the first real tournament since 2018. Obviously, Euro 2020 got postponed a year to 2021 because of COVID. Stadiums were not full at all. Just even though there was atmosphere, it didn't feel right. Then you got the World Cup 2022 fiasco. Everything was manufactured with that one. And you finally get to this World Cup in Germany. It just, this felt like football again, at least from the fan point of view. Now, I'm going to take a look at another side here because the play we actually saw on the field honestly wasn't that great at this tournament, if we're honest. I think play style wise, this has been one of the worst tournaments in recent memory. I mean, you had own goal leading the Golden Boot race by a wide margin. Now, I know own goal can technically participate in any game, and a player can only participate in 7 games at most. So I get that, but I think these past years have just worn the football player down, and there's no signs of stopping. It all goes back to, of course, the 2019-20 season. The season gets shut down mid-season, well, mid-late season because of COVID, and then the schedule shifts everywhere. So we end most seasons in, I'd say, early to mid-August. There wasn't that big of a break between then and the start of the 2020-2021 season, as that was basically started, I believe, early October. It was something like that. Then that season ends, so the 2020-2021 season ends in early June, because right after that you have Euro 2020 happening. So you have a lot more of a congested schedule for that 2020-21 season, and then you're going into a major European competition. Now, coming off of that, you get the 21-22 season, which still, because of the Euros happening, all of the schedules prior to that, you do start a little bit delayed and you end a little bit later. So then you get through the 2021-22 season, and you're back to a little bit more of a delayed off season, and a little bit quicker restart. Then you get to the 22-23 season, which starts even earlier than all the other ones because you have a World Cup smack dab in the middle of that domestic calendar in November and December. So then you're going to end that 22-23 season late, and then you start the 23-24 season, and again, it's a shorter off season, and then you hit the end of the 23-24 season and you're back at a Euro. fixture congestion has become a massive problem. I don't know the fix for it. Obviously, these past 5 years have been awful for fixture congestion. With COVID just throwing everything off. A mid-season World Cup does not help either. But, I mean, we're looking down the barrel of another one of those in 2032. So, what can I say? One of the biggest things for me, and I love the domestic cup competitions. I by no ways and means think that should be going away. I think what England did with the FA Cup kind of sucks with them eliminating replay rounds. I think that's dumb, but I somewhat get the point. I think the bigger problem is with UEFA here, expanding the European competitions from 32 to 36 teams. There's no reason for that whatsoever. We're expanding the group stage. We're expanding the knockout round, and we're just adding more and more games just so these players can go out and potentially hurt themselves and just wear themselves out faster. I mean, we look at a player like Luka Modric. He's been playing since 2007, 2008. He's probably got one more season left in him, and then he's retired. With the way fixtures are building up, I find it very hard to believe that players will have long careers like Luka Modric had. Something has to be done here. Like, I took a look at the Tottenham preseason fixture list. They start preseason games on Wednesday. They have like 7 or 8 preseason games. That is an absolutely ridiculous amount of preseason games. With, I believe, 3 or 4 of them are in South Korea, I think, which is just, of course, on the other side of the world. So it's interesting because the more and more games we add to the domestic season, I think the less and less we're going to see like just outstanding play of football at international tournaments like we used to. And I think that's a big problem. I think that's something that clubs and national teams have to work on. I think it's tough because something's got to get figured out so that these players aren't just run down at the end of the year. It can't work this way. It can't work this way. But if we get back to the actual tournament that happened, like I said, the play wasn't great, but I think the storylines were very good. You had a Germany team resurrected, it felt like. They came out flying. They looked to be a tournament favorite at moments. I thought they could have won it. Obviously, they lose to Spain in the quarterfinal in extra time. You have the likes of Georgia and Albania just coming out of nowhere. Obviously, they came out of somewhere because they qualified for this tournament, but nobody gave them any real expectations. I mean, look at Romania. They topped their group. Georgia got through on goal differential. They both made the knockout stages. Just incredible play by some of these nations, of course, that you wouldn't expect the footballing talent to come from. Like Slovenia. Look at Slovenia. They found their way. They took, they took Portugal to penalties and could have won that game. Of course, they had all 3 of their penalties saved, but you get my point. You, of course, have the 3 Lions story. You have that story of being 90 minutes away. And it's always going to be 90 minutes away. This Euro, it was great for storylines. It was great for the fans. For the play, not so great. I think we could have done a bit better, but I'm obviously, given the circumstances of the past 4 or 5 years, I don't think much could be done. Obviously, there's going to be a big question coming up. Obviously, 2025 feels like the first real-ish off-season. But, of course, there's some clubs that are going off to America for the expanded Club World Cup for no reason whatsoever. Yeah, it's beyond me. So, overall, I thought Euro 2024, it was a decent tournament. It wasn't anything special. We had special moments. It didn't feel like a special tournament, if that makes any sense. So we'll probably come back to Euro in a minute, but let's get Copa America out of the way as we continue this Requiem for the summer of soccer. As you know by now, Argentina won in extra time in the Copa America final that was marred with just awfulness. It was truly just despicable what happened with Colombia fans and probably some Argentina fans storming the stadium without tickets, trying to get in even though they didn't have tickets, climbing through air vents to get into the stadium. Just, it was a terrible look for everybody. A lot of people are putting the blame on the U.S., saying that they should not be hosting the World Cup in 2026. It was not all on the U.S. Now, I would say a little part of it would be on the U.S., but I place most of the blame on the organizers of this tournament, which is CONMEBOL. This was not 2016 when the U.S. Soccer Federation ran this thing. This was CONMEBOL because they wanted more money. And because they wanted more money, they cut corners on a lot of things. And you get stuff like this happening. I mean, we saw it in the semifinal with Uruguay and Colombia. After the final whistle, you have Uruguayan players going up into the crowd fighting fans because the fans were fighting their family members. It was a poorly run tournament start to finish. Now, part of that poorly run tournament was the field conditions, which I think this is a little bit more of a worrying piece for 2026 than it is 2024 now. I have full faith that FIFA will have a much more figured out, I guess I would say, pitch system for these stadiums that are going to have, artificial grass or put grass over artificial turf is what I meant to say. As they have the researchers at Michigan State University figuring that out. Go Green, shout out. They did it in 94 with Silver Dome. I believe the Meadowlands. They're going to do it again. This is going to be a much wider scale because artificial turf is running wild. I will be interested to see for 2026 how many stadiums elect to just go to grass full time. It will be interesting to see how this plays out. The pitches at this tournament were awful. There's no two ways about it. They were awful. We had some very small pitches because CONMEBOL wanted all the pitches to be equal. And when you host games at SoFi Stadium, where you cannot fit a FIFA regulation pitch, it looks like a kid's field, basically. They had to replicate that basically for all the stadiums, which is just absolutely bonkers. I think that was another big indictment on this tournament was the pitch situation. And the third big indictment on this tournament, I think this is far more in a way than any other one. The play of the game. I couldn't tell you how many times I talked to friends or I had friends reach out to me and say, I'm watching the Euro and the Copa America. The Copa America looks like a completely different sport compared to the Euro. And I couldn't disagree. It looked like two completely different games out there. Copa America, very, very physical compared to the Euro. Very light on the fouling, which don't think was great. But that's also how South America has played their football for what seems like forever. So they just took their refs, brought them up to America, have them on a bigger stage, I guess I would say. And you get this. It's not great. It sure is not great when you are showing that off to the world. Overall, I honestly think a lot of questions were left being asked after this Copa America than there were answers. With everything that has happened with CONMEBOL, everything that's happened, with the games this year, I think it left a lot more questions than answers on how 2026 is going to go. Now, of course, FIFA are in control in 2026. So there's a much better chance that things run much smoother than it does with this Copa America in 2024. But they kept making it out. This is a test run for 2026. This is a test run. This test run. This test run didn't go great, if we're honest. It was not great. I guess we'll see. I'll get into 2026 in a minute here. But this tournament, I think it was, I won't say a colossal failure, but I think it was, I like the idea of having some CONCACAF teams join the Copa America. I think that was very good. I think we have somewhat of a formula figured out here. I don't know if Common and Bull are going to want to go back to it because, honestly, I don't know if they would. But this tournament was mostly a failure to me. With just everything that has happened, I can't see this as a win for many people whatsoever. And that's just the blunt truth of it. When you have two simultaneous tournaments going on at the same time, and people are saying these are two completely different sports, that's a problem. That's a big problem. And I don't think it's Europe's problem that they aren't playing basically tackle football out there. I don't think it's their problem. So where does this leave us? We are now less than 2 years away now from World Cup 2026 kicking off in America. Now, if you followed Quick Kick Around the Pitch in 2022 for the World Cup, I brought this thing out. The lighting's not great, but you can see that's Pontiac Silverdome Souvenir Stadium Cup from World Cup 94. We're now less than 2 years away from the World Cup returning to the shores of North America with Canada, the United States, and Mexico as hosts. This summer was supposed to be a trial run with the Copa America, as I mentioned. Didn't work out great. I truly have more belief that FIFA are going to have this much more figured out. Play style wise, I am worried for 2026. I will be honest. I am worried with player burnout. And now an expanded World Cup, because you got to remember we're going to 48 teams in 2026. An expanded World Cup means more games. I think it would, if you're the champion, it's technically only one more game because we're still doing a group stage of 3 games. We've just added on a round of 32, and then we have a round of 16, and then 8, 4, 2, and then you're champion. Technically only one more game, but it's still a much more drawn-out period. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit worried for 2026 right now. I felt like I went back and watched it before I did this video. I wanted to see what I said in my closing for Quick Kick Around the Pitch in 2022. And it was very optimistic about the future of the sport in this country that we call America. I do believe we are getting closer and closer to this becoming more mainstream in this country. We saw record numbers for the Euro this year. The same can't be said for Copa America. Copa America viewership, even though that was at more prime time than it was the Euro, when the Euro was taking place in the midday here in America, the Euro still outdrawed the Copa America viewership-wise, which I don't know if that says something about this country, if they just enjoy European football more, or if it's because if it is because of the times, that's going to be a very interesting development come 2026 when all the games are on at times that we're used to here in America. I'm still hopeful. I like to be an optimist about this because I still believe that soccer, football, calico, whatever you want to call it, I still do believe it's got a very bright future in this country. We can talk about the national team a completely different day in this country. I know I did the video on Berhalter sacking. I think there's a problem there that needs to get figured out to lock in this younger generation. Like, for me personally, I saw 2010 was my first real soccer memories. That summer in South Africa. I watched this U.S. team, fell in love with the game. Now, of course, obviously, I really haven't shown much support for the U.S. in this whole summer. And part of that is because Berhalter really rubbed me the wrong way since the beginning. I didn't think he should have been rehired. I don't love what transpired, after the World Cup and then him getting rehired. Didn't love that. I don't love the way U.S. soccer is run. But really, if we keep going back and back, 2017 is when they didn't qualify for the World Cup and they kind of just wanted to go on as life, like, hey, it is what it is. We tried our hardest. That's where it really hit me, that this federation doesn't care. If they make it, they make it. If they don't, they don't. They're still a cash cow. That's basically it. Which then devolves into other things. Now, of course, the England side of all of this for me, it really didn't truly build up until that 2018 World Cup when I didn't have a U.S. team to root for. But, I mean, it still goes back to 2010. I still have memories of that USA-England game in 2010 in South Africa at the Royal Bafokeng Stadium, I believe it was. I don't remember for sure the name of it, but that game I don't know. There was something I really enjoyed about that England team under Fabio Capello. Even though they did not play great that tournament. They did not play great, but it kind of stuck with me since then. I obviously watched them under Roy Hodgson, watched them under Sam Allardyce for one game, and then we get the Southgate era. There's going to be a Southgate video coming eventually here. I'm going to kind of wait to see if a decision comes anytime soon with him staying, going. I don't know, because this could really go really well or really bad, I feel. So we'll see. But it really is the hope that kills you. I truly didn't know where I was going with this rant to start with. But it's another one of those summers where you're like, what could have been instead of what is. It's tough. It's tough. There's no other way to put it. But overall, I've been now rambling on for 24 minutes, basically, for the Requiem of the summer of soccer. It has been a joy as we close out Quick Kick Around the Pitch here, at least for another 2 years, less than 2 years now. I highly doubt seeing Quick Kick Around the Pitch coming back for the Gold Cup. Just, no. I'm hoping for 2026 for this to be back better than ever. I thought I took a huge step this time compared to 2022. The whole setup, all the technology stuff, it felt smoother than 2012 or 2022 when I was just doing it on my phone in a dorm room for 3/4 of the tournament. This felt like a much smoother operation. I feel like I got what I wanted out of this. I hope you got what you wanted out of this. So with that being said, that's going to wrap it up for Quick Kick Around the Pitch for this summer of soccer. The Euro and Copa America are over. Congrats to Spain. Congrats to Argentina. You two are continental champions once again. And I'll do what I did for the end of Quick Kick Around the Pitch in 2022. I'm going to toast to 2026. I'm hopeful for this country that it is going to be so mainstream and it's going to be great. So a toast to 2026 from this cup that is now 30 years old. So toast. And a big thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody that stumbled across these videos. If you follow me on Twitter, thank you. If you were on YouTube, found these, subscribed, thank you. If you were already a subscriber and watched these, thank you. The support was great this tournament. I saw really good viewership numbers. From what I was expecting, I exceeded those a bit. So I'm very happy with that. We're going to keep growing here. But for now, that is going to wrap it up for a quick kick around the pitch. So for Nick Burt and everybody here at the Nick Burt Sports Network, thank you so much. We'll see you again in 2 years for quick kick around the pitch, but that doesn't mean the content stops here. There's going to be so much coming this year. Looking forward to what now feels like the start of year 2 to the Nick Burt Sports Network. So thank you so much. We will see you again very soon. 2 years are going to fly by. Thank you so much.